Hello everyone, this is John. Welcome to Brainworks Puzzles and Quizzes. Have fun answering questions or solving a problem. I hope you enjoyed this one. You're on the planet Ulia and you come across the three dominant life forms. It is known that one of them is a true. Trues always tell the truth. One of them is a false. Falses always lie. And one of them is a random. Randoms answer questions with a lie or the truth at whim. Your task is to correctly identify who's who by asking 3 yes-no questions. The problem is that they will only answer questions in their own language, using zik and clack, but you don't know which means yes and which means no. How can you do it? Press pause here to think, and when you're ready, continue playing to hear the solution. This is a difficult problem, but it does have a solution. First, you arbitrarily number the aliens 1, 2 and 3. For the first question, you ask number 1, if I were to ask you if number 2 is the random, would you answer zik? The purpose of this first question is to identify an alien that is definitely not the random. If number 1 is the true or the false and answers zik, this means that number 2 is the random, and consequently 3 isn't. If he answers clack, that means number 2 is not the random. Let's prove that the answer zik means that number 2 is the random. If zik means yes, this answer translates to yes, I would say yes. The true would be telling the truth, so number 2 is the random. The false would be lying, so he wouldn't say yes, he'd say no. But no would be a lie, so number 2 is the random. If zik means no, this translates to no, I wouldn't say no. The true would be telling the truth, so number 2 is the random. The false would be lying, so he would say no. But no would be a lie, so number 2 is the random. If the answer is clack, then the meaning is obviously reversed. For the second question, you ask the one that you are now sure is not the random. If I asked you if you were the false, would your answer be zik? A true would always answer this question with clack. A false would always answer zik. I let you work through the possibilities, but you now know who you are talking to, and you ask this same alien the third question. If I were to ask you if number 1 is the random, would your answer be zik? This is the same as the first question, and the same reasoning tells us that the answer zik means that number 1 is the random, and that clack means he isn't. Don't hesitate to go back and listen to the reasoning again if you're not convinced. Let's illustrate this solution with an example. If you ask number 1, if I were to ask you if number 2 is the random, would you answer zik? He answers clack. If he is the true or the false, this means that number 2 is not the random. Also, if he is himself the random, then clearly number 2 isn't. You now ask number 2, if I asked you if you were the false, would your answer be zik? He answers zik. The true would not answer this question, yes, I would say yes, or no, I would not say no. So whether zik means yes or no, the true wouldn't be able to say it. He must be the false. Finally, you ask number 2, if I were to ask you if number 1 is the random, would your answer be zik? He answers clack. So number 1 isn't the random. You now know all their identities. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed that and want more of the same, then please consider subscribing to my channel. Bye for now, and see you again soon on Brainworks.